Hi friends, good morning. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Well, I want to welcome you to another flower stand setup. This time we're going to be setting up the stand with ranunculus. I think I'm going to mainly just do straight ranunculus bunches at the stand today. But I want to thank you all so much before we get deep into this video about just being willing to take a more realistic approach and a more vlog style approach to the flower stand this year. I feel like that's going to allow me a lot more time to produce more videos and also to share a lot more cut flowers and a lot more flower stands with you, which is what I'm really passionate about. So it's about 8 o'clock now and it's going to be really hot this week. So the way that I'm going to deal with that is that I'm going to harvest for the flower stand in the morning. I'm going to let the ranunculus condition during the course of the day, and then I'm going to set up the flower stand at about 5 o'clock. So I'll be selling from about 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, but I'll go ahead and advertise on Facebook, on my personal Facebook page, that the flowers are going to be for sale early in the morning as soon as we cut these. So I'll have kind of pictures for everybody to see early on in the day, but that way the ranunculus won't have to sit out and be exposed to 85, 92. I think even one day it's going to be 95 degrees and it's still May. So we'll see what that ends up doing to the ranunculus. But I wanted to share with you some things that I did differently this year with the ranunculus that I feel like has made a big difference. So in prior years, I always had the goal of starting my ranunculus March 1st and planting them out around St. Patrick's Day. But this year, if you've been following me, you know that I had to have surgery in March. So I knew that was going to happen. So I decided to start the ranunculus almost an entire month earlier. So I started the corms on February 9th. And then once they sprouted in the basement after about 10 days, I grew them under lights until March 1st. And at that time, I planted them out prior to having surgery. And I feel like what was interesting, I guess I should say, is they didn't bloom any earlier, but the plants themselves this year are so much healthier. Now, is that because I got them in the ground earlier? Maybe. Is that because we have not had a lot of constant rainfall, so I don't have to deal with a lot of moisture staying on the leaves like I have in years past? Or is it also because this year I chose never to fertilize my ranunculus? The main problem that I have with ranunculus is not necessarily growing them, but keeping them healthy with the pests and rainfall that I have here. So I usually would have this beautiful crop of ranunculus. I would cut it once, and then wouldn't you know it, they would get covered with powdery mildew, and they would get covered in black bean aphids. And being no spray, I just decided to say that's the way it's going to be for me here. But this year I have no powdery mildew and no black bean aphids. So was over fertilizing contributing to maybe a lot of lush leafy growth, which then drew in the black bean aphids? I'm really not sure what the answer is yet, because it's the first year that I've had this really nice result. But moving forward, I'm definitely going to repeat this to see if I have the same results. But moving forward, I'm definitely going to repeat what I did this year to see if I have the same results. I'm going to start them earlier at the beginning of February. I think I won't even bother to grow them under lights for any period of time. I'll just give them that 10 days to sprout in early February, plant them out, cover them, and let them really get established when it's cold. And then I'm not going to fertilize again next year and see if I get these same great results. And I want to share that with you guys and really hope to hear back from you. Have you tried any variations on growing ranunculus that has really helped you to combat pests and diseases on the ranunculus once they start blooming? I'm really interested to read your comments and learn from you. Now my guess is, and this is definitely a guess, that the main contributing factor to why my ranunculus are so much healthier this year is because we haven't had a lot of rain, and so I've been able to control the amount of moisture that they get. and I have been very consistent with watering. Now in the past, I've never been able to do that because it's always just been raining all the time, sometimes all day here in spring. I even think sometimes I've lost a lot of ranunculus due to the corms drowning. So maybe I'll do everything the same next year and we'll have a really rainy spring again, and I'll have powdery mildew, probably, and black bean aphids. But you know, even if I can eliminate those black bean aphids by maybe getting them into the ground sooner and not fertilizing, maybe that is the path forward for growing ranunculus outside in Zone 6B. Let me know what you think about all of this. Now, some people had asked about wrapping the bouquets, so we'll definitely do that together in today's video. And also about how the flowers sold. So when I first open the stand, the sales are usually not that great because people kind of have to get used to me being open. So the first day we sold 2, the second day open we sold 2, and the third day open we sold 3. So with the ranunculus and with it being hot, I'm only going to put out 3 or 4 every day, and we'll see how that goes. But these are gorgeous, aren't they? Now that is just a bucket full of beauty. What do you think, Grace? You happy with the ranunculus this year? Grace is also very happy with how the ranunculus are doing this year. Let's go ahead and get this bucket inside into the addition, and then I'll see you guys tonight to set up the flower stand. So to wrap these, I'm using 2 sheets of tissue paper because I have these on hand from a business I used to own. Then what I like to do in terms of ones that are in a sauce jar, fold it up like this so you have 2 peaks at the top. Then once again, in consideration of the size of the sauce jar, I'm going to fold this up. Then I'm going to fold these in. So that's how it will look. I'll wrap that around the bouquet. Staple it. And then I use some yarn I have around the house to tie a nice bow right around the rim of the jar. And now that's ready to go out to the stand. And Grace is ready to go to the park. Did you hear what I said, Grace? So we've got our ranunculus as the focal flower. We have the sweet William, the black button bachelor's buttons. I have some nigella tucked into these, and then 3 stems of Solomon seal just surrounding the bouquet, all wrapped up and ready for their new homes. Friends, hey friends, it's currently about 11 o'clock the next day. Yesterday we sold 2 of those bouquets, and this morning I put out 2 additional bouquets, and I also freshened up the ones that were out there yesterday evening. But something kind of interesting that I saw in regards to what I mentioned yesterday about the ranunculus and the black bean aphids, I think the black bean aphids aren't on my ranunculus because they're on my breadseed poppies. So there they are. And it was interesting because right here in the corner of this bed, I pulled out 3 poppies a few days ago because I thought they just were too overcrowded, or, you know, just something going on. I just pulled them, the leaves didn't look any good, and I didn't look closely. It was probably these black bean aphids all along. So I'm gonna have to think about this for a while. So I'm definitely going to have to think about this for a while. Are the breadseed poppies acting as a trap crop? And was it a good idea to plant them even if they do perish before flowering and setting seed pod, which is what I'm growing them for? or was it the location of the beds, and that bed has a lot more organic matter in it than the ranunculus bed? I don't know. Let me know what you think. That's the first time I've ever seen those aphids on the breadseed poppies. And I don't know, I'm just discovering it with you in real time now, so I'm gonna have to think about how I want to handle that a little bit longer before making a decision. As long as they can put on good seed pods for me, I don't mind that they're covered in aphids. And I'd rather them be on the breadseed poppies than on the ranunculus. But let me take you over to the flower stand real quickly because I'm gonna need to shut down again for the middle of the day and then pick back up again this evening. So here's the 2 remaining pink ranunculus bunches from yesterday. And what I did was pull out any ranunculus that looked like they were suffering at all from the heat, replace them with new ranunculus this morning, fresh cut, fresh water, and fresh wrapping, just because I messed up the wrapping putting in some new ranunculus. And then we have the Aviv Picardy Cafe, just straight bunches of those with Solomon seal. And how about this for a delightful surprise? We have this gorgeous amaryllis blooming on June 1st. Here's also an update on the Clarkia in bloom now. I'm not exactly sure how I would use this at the flower stand based on how it's blooming. It's blooming kind of in the middle of the stem, not blooming up towards the top. So we'll see. But at least they're growing a lot better than they did last year. Some are doubles. Most are singles though. It's about 30 minutes later and I see we just sold a bouquet. So another way I'm handling this heat is I'm just trying to keep the flowers inside as long as possible, but also keep 4 bouquets at the stand at all times. So it was great to see that she ordered, or purchased rather, a bunch of the orange ranunculus, so I'll put these out in their place. And I've also, in preparation for this evening, separated out my best ranunculus so that bouquet building is really fast and easy. And then behind me, I have kind of my bucket of extras that's just gonna be for myself and my mom to play around with. I wanna dry some ranunculus this year too. And then my sink is filling up with compost. I grabbed a quick hot dog and I see I have a notification on my phone that we sold another bouquet via Venmo. So I'm gonna pop back out to the stand with another bouquet and cut some more Solomon seal so I can finish up these 2 arrangements. So it's 2 days later and I never ended up setting the flower stand back up because it just stayed way too hot. When I went to bed that night, the temperature was 89 degrees outside at about 10 p.m. So just wasn't worth the risk of putting the ranunculus out in that heat. But the following morning, it was much cooler and I had been advertising all afternoon and evening on Facebook that I was going to reopen. So I put out 5 ranunculus bouquets with just 12 ranunculus on 3 stems of Solomon seal, and I can pop a picture on the screen here. And we ended up selling 4 by 10:30. But then once again, it was 94 degrees by 10:30 a.m. So I just kept the last ranunculus bouquet for myself. But friends, I think I'm going to wrap up today's video here because I have some gentlemen coming over to assess the trees over in the orchard. We're going to be getting the bird cherries trimmed up so that we can get in our new evergreen hedge, hopefully really soon here. And hey, how about these Martagon lilies next to me? Aren't they awesome? Well, I want to wish you a wonderful day out there in your gardens. Hope you're selling lots of cut flowers, and I'll see you sometime soon. Bye! Hi friends, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Well, in this video, we're going to be setting up the flower stand, the new flower stand that is multiple times. I would say probably at least 3 times over the course of the next 3 days we'll be setting up the stand. The peonies are coming on fast and furious. I'm cutting them about 3 times a day right now, and I'm putting some of them in my refrigerator, some in the addition. And once we go inside, you'll be able to see I have peonies at all different kinds of stages to use today at the flower stand. But before we get to arranging and setting up the stand, we're going to go ahead and make the first cut on these fall planted Sweet William. And the difference between the fall planting and the spring planting is quite obvious now that they're in bloom. So I brought my measuring tape out here before we take the first cut to see. I think this one here might be the tallest. Actually, the one closest to you guys is probably even taller. So it's a little bit shy of 23 inches tall. These spring planted ones are barely even 9 inches at the moment. They do have a bloom head on them, and I would think that these would be even taller if they were planted into good soil. This bed and the ranunculus bed behind me is that soil that I had brought in, and it turned out just to be some kind of topsoil, even though it was supposed to be compost mixed with topsoil. But anyway, all that saying, let's get to harvesting, setting up the flower stand. I'm going to do this video a little bit more realistically, a little bit more vlog style than I normally do, a set up the flower stand with me, mainly because when it comes to peony season, I have to work really, really fast. I only have one refrigerator to store peonies in, and I really want to sell as many peonies as quickly as possible. So let's go ahead and cut this Sweet William, and then we'll get inside and start arranging. Some of the plants already have 3 usable stems. Today is May 17th for frame of reference here in zone 6B. So this is really great. You can see I don't even have my snapdragons ready yet. Ranunculus are just starting. I think that really hot day that we had, well, actually, I think it was maybe about a week or two of really hot days in April. It just kind of stopped everything in its tracks that likes the cold weather. It's just really strange. What I'm also going to try to do with this planting is keep track of how many cuts I get per plant so that we can see the difference there too. But just looking at these side by side, I don't think I would ever do a spring planting of Sweet William again. Obviously, this is just so much better. I never ever covered these Sweet William. I did start them inside under lights and then plant them out as transplants. I kept them watered initially. We get a lot of rain here, but then after that, they have been totally on their own. You know, it just dawned on me that these Sweet William would almost work as a focal flower too. If you didn't have peonies yet, or if you were just getting started with peonies, I bet people would buy this as their focal flower. It'd be interesting to try that one day and see how they sell. If we run out of peonies, maybe I'll go ahead and give that a go. The one observation that I did make on these plants that I thought was really interesting is that we had this really, really cold spell followed by a really strong rain. I think they were predicting hail. I don't think we actually really got any hail, but all these plants, stem and all, were basically, they had all fallen over, and I thought to myself, why didn't I net these? I had taken the time to net the snapdragons. I didn't net these. Well, wouldn't you know, they all bounced back and literally just picked themselves back up, just like a tulip does when it gets too cold. I mean, I was just amazed at that. So really interesting. Well, there we have it, friends. Our fall sown Sweet William is producing beautifully for us here. And I think really it was ready for cutting about a week ago. Let me count how many plants I have. So it looks like I have 25 fall sown plants. And I think I have slightly less than that in terms of spring sown plants. But also, if that helps anybody out in terms of production, there's 25 plants right here. So here's the flowers for the first stand, and look how much these peonies have opened already. I cut these this morning at about 7:30 a.m. and they look just like this. They're already all fully open. We'll mix that with some Sweet William, some Abelia from the driveway garden, and some Solomon seal from my grandma's garden, and then we're gonna get set up as soon as possible. All right, friends, I got them all done. It took me about 20 minutes. I love working with peonies because it's just so quick and easy to put them together. I decided to just use only Solomon's seal, that's the foliage, the sweet white purple bicolor dianthus or sweet William. This peony is Felix Krause and Bunker Hill. I'm not really sure which is which because I planted them in kind of a mixed arrangement throughout the garden. And I quickly decided not to use the spirea. It just didn't look formal enough. And definitely I didn't want to use those light pink peonies. They're just too open. I'll go ahead and use them for our dining room table. But I am losing customers as we speak. Let me get these out of the stand so I don't miss the dinner rush. Well, here's one last look at these beautiful bouquets before we send them off to their new homes. Fingers crossed for a successful 2023 season for all of us selling cut flowers this year. Let me get set up over there and then I'll give you a tour of the new flower stand. Okay friends, so here's a look at the brand new flower stand. So my husband purchased this. I think it might be an outhouse that's normally used to house tools. We have a smaller one in the very back of our property. And then he put this shelf in for me with flooring from our addition that was the wrong type of flooring for flooring that gets wet. I did go ahead and wrap the bouquets. This year I'm taking Venmo. Oh, my other sign just fell over. I need to fix that. I have some complimentary greeting cards here, a place to put the money. Oh, let's hold for some traffic. But yes, I have some greeting cards here that I get for free from the National Wildlife Federation. When I got that certificate a few years ago, they started sending me free greeting cards all the time, so I just thought I'd put those there. Everyone could put their money in the box or just scan the QR code. I also have some of my other certificates in here, along with some free gardening magazines. Oh, sorry, I'm losing my voice already. And this is on the corner of our property now. So when I'm not open, I can just take the sign down and close the door for the day. And I do get a lot of questions about the holders. These are wine holders. I think if you buy wine by the box or you just go visit a wine store, they will probably give you these for free. And they are the ideal size for sauce jars. So fingers crossed for a good day. All right, friends. Well, another day, another flower stand. It's now Monday, and today we're going to be doing just really easy bunches at the flower stand. I picked these at about 7:30 this morning. Here comes Grace to say hi. It's about 10 o'clock now. So I think we'll just do bunches of 8. Let's go ahead and rubber band them together. We'll give them a nice wrapping and then get the stand all set up again. So the way I like to do the ones that are just going to be wrapped is to create a fan shape. And then I'll gradually work my way down from that fan. This is just such a nice, quick, and easy way to put together a front-facing bouquet. I try to save a bloom that's really beautiful for the front. Whoops. There we go. Okay friends, we are officially open this Thursday. I have just 3 bouquets in the flower stand today. My husband took one to work for his friend, and I have something really special to tell you that just happened. So I was just out there setting up the flower stand. It's about 10 o'clock now, and our mailman came by and he asked me if we were going to be open on Saturday because he wanted to pop over and get flowers for his date. And I was really touched by that because we've had the same mailman ever since we lived here. And when I stopped to think about it, more than anyone, that mailman knows how I kind of pour my heart into this, what is a very, very small cut flower endeavor. But still, I just thought it was really nice, someone who knows the work that I'm trying to put into this, that is willing to stop and pay for the flowers. So anyway, be encouraged that people are watching and that they appreciate all the hard work that all of us are doing. I know sometimes it can feel kind of isolating, and I just think sometimes it feels like, especially when people steal and things like that, people just don't understand how hard it is sometimes and how long it takes to grow something and how each crop is different, has different needs, different amount of skill needed. So yeah, it's just nice to know that someone who sees the hard work that you're putting in is willing to pay what you're asking. So friends, I want to wish you a wonderful day. Let me know what you think about this style of video. This allows me to do all of the flower stands that I do, whereas in previous years, I would only film the flower stand here and there just because that type of a video, it takes a long time to produce. And it's a little bit unrealistic because I'm waiting for nice lighting. It's taking me much, much longer to set up the flower stand than it ever really realistically would. So let me know which you prefer. Maybe I could do a little bit of each this year. But for now, I want to wish you a wonderful day. And until next time, happy weeding. Bye. Good morning friends, how's everyone doing today? Well, I'm ready to get the flower stand set up on this bright and sunny morning. I have a bucket of peonies I just pulled from the fridge. More I harvested really early this morning, and so I want to set up the flower stand and try to stay open till at least 2:30. It's really hot and really sunny today, and that's going to cause all these peonies to blow open quickly, but we'll give it a go and see how we do. Now, the other thing that's going to be happening today is that our shipment of perennials is going to arrive. So hopefully I'll be able to get some footage of those arriving. I think they're going to be on stacked pallets. And then hopefully I can give you a tour of all those perennials. You can kind of see how sunny it is right now, and it's only about 7:30 a.m. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the stand set up, and then I'll show you these new perennials. So we got the stand set up by 7:30 and we've sold 2 bouquets so far. It's now 10:30 a.m. and I just got a text on my phone saying that the driver is about 30 minutes away. So I'm gonna move the car and the truck out of the driveway to make room for him. Okay, friends, they're here. I'm so excited. I think I might just cry. Grace does not like me being over in the driveway. Here she comes with her new bone. So hopefully that'll keep her busy while we take a look at these plants. But I only ordered 7 varieties. I ordered between, I think, 9 and 15 of each. And we're just gonna repeat these all throughout the main flower walk. We're going to extend the main flower walk all the way around. It's gonna curve around and then connect to the library so it all feels like one seamless main flower walk all the way down to the library. And I'm just so excited about these plants. I put a lot of thought into it, and I also chose plants that are all good for cutting in one way or another and will bloom throughout the growing season. So these have been forced. So some of these things, like especially the anemone you'll see blooming, that wouldn't normally be blooming until later in the year. Same with the allium. But enough talk, let's look at these plants because I'm about to freak out. Okay, yes, I am freaking out. I am so excited about these plants. And even seeing them now in the main flower walk, I'm really happy with the way they're blending in nicely. So let's take a look at this lime green one first. I had seen a video that Walter's Gardens did of this perennial. So this is an ornamental oregano called Drops of Jupiter. And I ordered, I believe, 12 of these. And so these are going to go all around the deck area, all around that stone, and kind of soften the look of the deck and give me that lime color that I'm after. I had originally contemplated using lady's mantle. I abandoned that idea because I thought the ornamental oregano could take just basically anything I could throw at it back there. It's probably gonna get stepped on every once in a while. The soil isn't that great. It's right next to really hot stone. And I think the oregano is going to do great back there. And I just love this chartreuse color. Let's take a look at the flowers. I can't tell from looking at this picture if they're purple or pink. My regular oregano blooms purple, so I'm assuming this one blooms purple as well. But there's the stats for you. Blooms midsummer to early fall. So this is just going to be amazing, and I think it'll be so nice to have it back there in the area where I grow both vegetables and flowers. So right here we have a new yarrow. It's called Firefly Fuchsia. So I believe you can get this wholesale 2024, but in terms of retail, you won't be able to get it until 2025. But I wanted to bring that magenta into the midsummer garden. And when I saw this Firefly Fuchsia yarrow, I thought, yes, this will be perfect. It's great for cutting. It's great for bringing in beneficial insects into the garden. And look at the color on that. This is going to be so fabulous. So we'll just repeat this over and over and over again, all throughout the main flower walk, continuing this beautiful magenta color as the season progresses. Speaking of magenta, why don't we look at this anemone next? So this is Fall in Love Sweetly anemone, and I believe I have maybe about 3 of these in the garden. But once again, I just wanted to repeat it more often so that we get bigger impact and so that the picture that's created here in the main flower walk continues on all the way down to the library, really giving a sense that everything goes together. It just has a nice cohesive feel to use plants over and over again. So I'm really excited to add lots of these to the main flower walk. Now here's a plant that I ordered for the driveway garden. We have 15 of these serendipity alliums, full sun to part sun it says. And I'll turn the tag over for you so you can read that also. But I already have about, I don't know, maybe 7 of these in the driveway garden. And I'm going to basically amp up my alliums in that garden, amp up my allium succession, I should say, in that garden. And I'm going to use the herbaceous allium to cover the dying foliage of my alliums grown from bulbs. So I'm very excited about that. So all of these alliums are going over in the driveway garden. Now check out this plant. Did you ever grow meadow rue before? I have never grown it in this particular garden, but I grew it when I lived back in Pittsburgh. My grandma grew it, and this is a new variety. Once again, I think this is wholesale for 2024, retail 2025, but take a look at the picture here. So this is cotton candy meadow rue. And I just cannot tell you how excited I am about this plant. The blooms are so fluffy and beautiful, like little tufts of light violet. And can you just imagine these little tufts of violet popping up all throughout the main flower walk? Let's take a look at the height on this. I think it was a little bit taller. 38 to 42 inches tall. So kind of a middle of the border plant, and I think that will be really nice to have another purple in here. It's a little bit more pinky purple and just a whole other texture that I really don't have in the garden. Super, super excited about that. I'm sure a lot of you recognize this plant. It's an Amsonia called Storm Cloud. Let me get the tag for you. There's the back of the tag for you. So I do have quite a bit of Amsonia around the stone rug, but I only have Amsonia around the stone rug. So I definitely want to repeat that again, back by the library and back behind me, once again, just to get that nice cohesive feel in the garden. And what in the world is Grace getting around to? Oh, I am really scared of what she's discovering back there. Anyway, the last plant I ordered is a Brunnera, and this one is called Jack of Diamonds, 14 to 16 inches, part shade, just such a beautiful perennial with these wonderful dainty blue flowers in early spring that are really great for cutting. And I want to use this in some back areas that get a little weedy, or in areas that I haven't really planted anything because it's just full shade and I'm not sure what to put there. So we're going to put a little bit over here. And what I'm going to do with that one is really basically groups of 3 over and over again. But especially as we pass the stone rug, we get to the Solomon seal, we're getting back here to where I have the big burning bushes. There is a bit more shade before you hit the sun again. And as you can see, once we get back here, this area has been fairly neglected by me as just things kept happening over here over and over and over again. But I need to do a lot of work over here. It lacks texture, it lacks different colors, it lacks a connection to the main flower walk. So that's what I'll be doing, just concentrating on bringing this garden all the way back, touching that limelight, touching the strawberry Sunday hydrangea before eventually hitting the library. And that is going to be so, so beautiful. I just can't wait to get started. And you can see I've started to prepare some of the beds here. I've been pulling a few things out, pulling tulips. We're also going to be interplanting a lot of these perennials around some of my dahlias that I'm going to use for cutting. So here, of course, we're going to go dahlia, yarrow, dahlia, yarrow, dahlia, yarrow, so that over time that yarrow can really fill in and just carpet this space. But for now, I'll have the yarrow and the dahlias. And I want to think about different textures. So I've got kind of this silvery, looser, more minty foliage on the catmint. So I want to back plant that with something that's more green, has a different texture, and I think the yarrow will be just beautiful there. So can you guys hear the storm in the distance? I thought it wasn't supposed to rain till tomorrow, but maybe it's gonna rain today after all. I just can't wait to get all of these new perennials in the ground and to see this new picture that I want to paint come to life right before our eyes. I'm going to be filming, I think after this video, a really, really special video with an update on Northlawn saving grace and another dahlia that I bred, which I have not fully discussed with you ever before, and I need to share a big update on all of that. So for now, friends, I want to wish you a wonderful day out there in your gardens, and I'll see you sometime soon. Bye. Hi friends, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. It is a beautiful evening here in Pennsylvania, and I'm getting ready to cut some flowers for the flower stand tomorrow. We're going to be, oh, an apple's attacking me. We're going to be cutting some bupleurum, bachelor's buttons, nigella, snapdragons, some ranunculus, maybe some sweet William, and then we're going to be pairing all of that with sunflowers. It's not going to be too hot at the flower stand tomorrow, so I can finally use my bouquet. Now the jury is still out on whether or not we should cut the Clarkia. Someone made a great suggestion that I should just cut the tops off just like I do with gladiolus and then put them in the bouquets. But they just bloom so low down on the stem. I'm not really sure if it would be worth it. I think at this point, seeing them grow, seeing how they grow in the garden when they're happy, I think I'm just going to use them as an ornamental plant. So even though the Clarkia was kind of a fail in terms of a cut flower, I think I really like it in the landscape. It almost looks like little butterflies, like Gara in a way. And mainly, I just love the color pairing here with the bouquet in the landscape, the catmint, the elegant salmon Clarkia is the cultivar that we grew, more bouquet, and then I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera, but back behind there I have another river of bachelor's buttons. I have a gold hinoki cypress, which you maybe don't get to see on garden tours because it's back pretty far. And then that red shrub in the background is a ginger wine 9-bark. So it looks like I need to clean off our sunflower bench a little bit, but I just love the color and the texture here, and I especially adore these Martagon lilies. I love the way that they look like orchids, and I was trying to figure out what they smelled like. I thought maybe they smell like vanilla, but I think they actually smell like apples. So if you grow Martagon lilies, let me know what you think they smell like, because I was having a really hard time identifying, you know, what was it that I was smelling. It really does not smell like a lily. It smells like an apple with a hint of vanilla and maybe the faintest whiff of lily fragrance. That is a really odd description, so let me know if you can describe it any better than I can. Well, enough chit chat. Let's get to cutting. So now in terms of processing this Oralea for the heat of the flower stand, I'm going to go ahead and remove all the white flowers. I know that might seem a little bit painful, but even at 85 degrees, if these sit out there until say noon, they are just going to melt to pieces. And I have tried every trick in the book in terms of hydrating them, and the hydration works really, really well as long as they stay inside. But when you take all that extra time to condition them properly, and then you just put them out into 94-degree temperatures, this is just a much more reliable way to use Oralea at a flower stand when it's hot outside, in my personal experience. Look at these beautiful Nigella. Now these are fresh enough to use. Isn't that beautiful? That probably just opened a few hours ago. So I only had a few of these Potomac purple snapdragons ready for harvest, but look at the stem length on that. Can you see it touching the ground here? That is an amazing stem length on these snapdragons. So I planted these 4 inches apart. I did not pinch them this year because I was hoping to have them for Mother's Day. That didn't happen, but the stems are so thick, so strong, and just so tall. Look at that. That's awesome. I can't wait until this whole bed blooms. So let's start with a nice upward facing Vincent sunflower for the center. I did also go ahead and pick some Sweet William, come in with the spike. I'll basically add almost one of everything before giving it a turn. That beautiful Nigella pod. bachelor's button, oops, Ranunculus, imperial blue larkspur. So here's the Clarkia. The tip is kind of floppy, so I'm gonna sacrifice it to the point where it's not floppy anymore, which looks like about there. I don't know, that just doesn't really seem to work. You know what, let's cut it even more. I don't know. I think I'd rather just grow more larkspur. Bouquet. Go ahead and give it a turn. Kind of just repeat all those ingredients over again. Coming pretty close to the end now. So we'll just add a few more stems and then I'll finish it off with a ring of bouquet around the outside. If I feel like the bouquet is getting too tight, I'll move my hand down on the stems. Instead of holding it up here, just pull my hand down a little bit, and that really helps loosen things up. So at this point, we'll add the bouquet all around the outside. Usually 3 stems is good, because bouquet is so big. A good substitute for bouquet would be baptisia. Similar look, more of a blue tint to those leaves. And we're ready to go. It's 7:45, so we're done just in time. I always try to be set up by 8 a.m. if I'm going to be open that day. It's about 11 o'clock now, and so far we've sold 1 bouquet. I've been planting some GMs out here, and it's been so hot, but also so incredibly dry here in Pennsylvania that I'm taking some extra precautions as I plant these GMs. I'm digging the hole and then I'm watering the hole itself with about a half of a watering can. Now I'll give it another half watering can, some mulch around it, and just pray for rain, because even the ground is cracking. The grass is brown. All my new grass is just brown at this point. It's so sad, but what can you do? And my husband and I are tag teaming the watering every morning. I'm not sure it's ever been this dry here before for this period of time, at least since I've lived here. I used to live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So this GM is called Totally Tangerine, and I went to a new nursery the other day. I was looking for bear's breeches. I've always wanted, hi Grace, how you doing, love? Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. So I was saying I was looking for bear's breeches. They were sold out. I saw these GMs, and is it like this where you live? But around here, it is really hard to find GMs that look good in any type of quantity. You know, I got 6 here. I think that's the most I've ever seen at one nursery. It's usually that they'll have 1 GM in bloom, and the blooms aren't held very nicely on a lot of GMs. I'm not sure if that's the way they are just when they're grown in the containers, or if some of them perform in the garden like that. But it just seems like it's really hard to find a lot of nice GM plants at the same place. So even though I couldn't find the bear's breeches, I scooped these up, and I'm excited to have them because now that I have the elegant salmon Clarkia here, I can tell that I really love having this color in the garden. And now I'll have this in the garden as a perennial via these Totally Tangerine GMs and also this beautiful peach agastaki. But now I need some more water. Well friends, sorry, no time to put on a microphone. It looks like we're gonna get a big storm, so I need to break down here at around 3 o'clock. And this is another reality of selling roadside. Well, it's the next day. We did not really get any rain. I think it rained for about 2 seconds, then it stopped. But it turned out that we were under a fire warning. I think that got downgraded to a red flag warning, so we're not supposed to be burning anything. And then they were saying that the air quality was unhealthy here because smoke was coming down from Canada to Pennsylvania. And last night it was about 9 or 10 p.m. I let Grace out and I said to my husband, it sounds like everyone, or it smells like rather, everyone in our neighborhood is having a bonfire tonight. That's so strange given the fact that we were under that red flag warning. But I guess maybe it was that smoke coming down from Canada. So my prayers go out to anyone that might be dealing with fires in their area. We're definitely dealing with a drought here. I'm guessing a lot of you guys are dealing with drought, so I hope we all get some rain really, really soon. Although to be honest, I don't see any rain in the 10-day at all. So all that to say, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video and start shooting another one, which I'm really, really excited about. It's going to be a combination of videos that I've had in mind for a number of years. I think I'm just going to sit down and talk through all these situations. So basically I want to talk through every cut flower that I've ever grown. And I think I'll just grab a couple books for reference and we can just go through all the cut flowers together. But really focus on growing cut flowers in this particular climate, which is a hot, humid, and generally wet climate with heavy pest pressure, growing organically, and selling at a roadside stand where the flowers need to be able to take the heat of a roadside stand. Which cut flowers perform well in those situations, which don't. There's a lot of really great resources, articles, videos, podcasts about easy cut flowers to grow from seed, beginner cut flowers. However, if you are growing in a climate similar to the one I'm in, and if you're selling at a roadside stand, I would be willing to bet that most of the flowers on those lists really are not the best choices based on my personal experience here. And so I want to just share some alternatives to things that you might see on a list. For example, zinnias, cosmos, calendula, lunaria, basil. I don't bother to grow any of those things anymore. Instead, I'm growing the tough stuff. Lilies, Solomon seal, forsythia, gladiolas, peonies, ranunculus, things that can really, really take the heat, can deal with the humidity in this area, and that are relatively easy care in terms of pests and diseases. That's the book, that's the information that I wish existed 8 years ago. And so I'm just going to speak from the heart in that video. I don't have any notes or anything about it, but it's information that I really, really do want to share and really kind of emphasize the fact that growing cut flowers and what you grow is so specific to climate. Not necessarily zone, but climate plays such a big deal in terms of what are going to be the easy flowers to grow, what's going to be the best return on your investment, what's going to be the most problem and pest free. So with all that to say, I want to wish you a wonderful day. I'm going to get started on that video and hopefully we sell the remainder of these flowers and we all stay safe and hydrated. Let's all pray for some rain. Until next time, happy gardening. Bye. Hi friends, I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm so excited to get the flower stand set up with you. The rain has finally arrived here in Pennsylvania and it feels much more like home. I'm not used to having that long period of drought for a month. And to be quite honest, I really started to think about, do I need to run irrigation around here if this is going to become the new norm? But basically we've gone from completely dry to totally wet. So this morning we're going to be harvesting wet flowers. We're going to let them dry inside and then we'll set up the flower stand tonight. All the bouquets are going to be matching pretty much like I always do, but we have all new flowers to cut. We've got these beautiful rosella lilies. We've got our apricot straw flowers already, apple blossom snaps. I'm running really low on the snaps, to be honest. We're also going to be cutting feverfew, bupleurum, poppy pods, orlea, And I think that's it. I think I had it kind of going mentally in my mind what I wanted to cut today. And I do like to do that. If I know I want to set out 4 bouquets, or like today I want to set out 5, I can kind of have that in mind as I cut. So for lily bouquets, I always do 2 lily stems, then we'll do 3 stems of a supporting flower, 5 stems of a spray flower, 7 to 9 stems of a foliage, and I'll kind of talk you through that as we go ahead and cut from the gardens today. So let's get into this video and try to beat the rain. So let's go ahead and start out by cutting some of these breadseed poppy pods. So in this bed we had the rose feathers breadseed poppies, the purple peony poppies, and you see blooming now is frosted salmon. The pods that I'm taking currently are rose feathers. So rose feathers bloomed first. The purple peony, or was it black peony? Maybe it was black peony. I didn't get too many of those, so I'm not sure what happened there. Frosted salmon has always been really, really reliable. However, the rose feathers seem to be producing straighter stems in terms of the pods. So that was kind of interesting, but they're all beautiful and I think they're all worth growing. I saw this great question about, is it too late to plant breadseed poppies? And so I did a little research on that. And I did find one article that said you could still sow them this late in the season, but for those of us growing breadseed poppies for the pods, I thought it would be worth trying a later sowing here and just see what happens. So I ordered some more seeds from Baker Creek. I'm all tangled up now. And what I want to do, and we'll do this together, is I'm going to cut back that one bed of ranunculus that had the Aviv Pickety Cafe. I'm going to leave the corms on the ground, and then we'll just seed right over it with these breadseed poppies right here in late June, and we will be able to watch and see what happens together. I would assume that the plants will be really, really short, but the weather is just so strange this year. Who knows what will happen? These straw flower are closed at the moment just because it's early in the morning and it's still dark out. This is my first cut on these, so I'm going to cut it pretty far down, about, I would say, above maybe 3 to 4 sets of leaves. I'm so excited to harvest these Rosella Dream lilies with you. I chose this variety to bloom along with the apricot straw flower and the apple blossom snaps. These are an Asiatic lily, so they're the first cut lily to bloom. No fragrance on an Asiatic lily, and I'm so glad that they just all bloom together. I'm going to pick about half of these with one lily open or opening and all the rest closed and in colored bud. I have noticed that almost all of my customers will not buy a lily bouquet unless at least one lily is fully open. I think we can pick some of this Colorado yarrow too while we're over here. It'd be a really nice color pairing with these. But I just think that's a beautiful pairing. And here's a quick update on the invincible spirit hedge. Doesn't it look great? Some dandelions in there I gotta pull, but I need to cut flowers first. Now I have two kinds of feverfew over in the driveway. I have the Tetra White, which I think maybe I added this into the garden about 3 falls ago. And then this other one, I think it's called Magic Green. I've had that one for a while. I like that one the best. It just seems like the Magic Green has a stronger stem, and especially because they kind of get tangled up at the top, especially when you have them planted in a garden setting. The stronger the stem, the better. I don't know what Rocky is doing up on the roof. But here's the Tetra White, this more frilly one. And here's the Magic Green or Magic Lime Green. I'll double check that and put it on the screen. I think we are pretty good to go for the day, friends. I ended up picking for 4 bouquets, mainly based on I just don't have enough snapdragons and the yarrow is just starting to come on. So I think I'd rather just do 4 really nice bouquets than try to push it to 5 and have them look uneven. So let's get these inside to condition for a few hours. Good morning, friends. It's 6:30 a.m. Saturday morning and I'm about to get the stand all set up for the day. I think these bouquets turned out just beautifully and I really love the color palette. This is what I was thinking the bouquets would be looking like this time of year. It was really interesting, even though the Royal Sunset that we sold last week, and I basically just kept selling those type of bouquets over and over again, even though that coloring isn't what I planned, they sold really well. So I'll repeat that color palette as well next year. Now these lilies just opened last night, so I just continue to pop off the pollinanthers as time goes on. But how about these apple blossom snaps? Aren't they amazing? And I think they just look so beautiful with the apricot straw flowers. I just am really, really happy with these bouquets. We are officially all set up here at 7 a.m. I did go ahead and put a riser on these back bouquets. I just used a flat that I had in the basement, but I think they're still a little bit hard to see there in the back. I'm wondering if I should put some push lights in the stand to kind of light it up from the interior. Let me know what you think about that, but I'm just not sure you can still tell that there's 5 bouquets in here. So I do try to come out every maybe about 2 hours, check on things, and rearrange the flowers so there's always 3 really nice looking bouquets right in the front. It looks like we need some more gardening magazines and some more cards. So let's get that done before everyone gets around to coming out for the day. Well, friends, it's about 3 days later and we ended up selling all those bouquets by 4 p.m. That was such a wonderful blessing. And henceforth, until I'm out of those Rosella Dreams lilies, I'll just continue to make that exact same bouquet. I usually purchase lilies in 45s, and that usually takes me about a week to sell 45 lilies in bouquets. I think Buddy wants to say hi to you guys. But before I go today, I wanted to show you these Eastern Moon lilies. Aren't these spectacular? They must be about almost 5 feet, probably 5 feet this year. I think, did I put these in last year? It's either been 2 or 3 years that these lilies have been in the ground. Eastern Moon is a trumpet lily. I would say they have a very light fragrance. So even if you sit here at the table, you are not blown away with lily fragrance. It's very light. I mean, it's almost non-existent. It's almost non-existent in terms of fragrance. It's really interesting. Now let me show you a big problem I'm having here. I've been trying to reseed the grass. It looked okay for a while, and then I cut it with the Amish mower. I let the clippings lay in the grass, and I think I did more damage. I don't know, I'm wondering too if I shouldn't be using compost when I put down grass seed. Any and all advice you have on that for me, let me know. Well, friends, thanks again for setting up the flower stand with me. More flower stand setups to come. I'm about a fourth done with part 2 of the renovation over in Grace's garden. And then I'm gonna film a June garden tour. I think I'm gonna need a lot of grace in terms of that June garden tour, because this year, because of those renovations, I've been a little bit lacking in terms of maintenance on all my gardens. And this year, I've been selling as many cut flowers as possible, really kind of taking it back to the way I did things pre-YouTube. And because of that, especially as we walk around the gardens and we get to the raised beds area and the driveway garden, there's gonna be almost no flowers at all to look at because we've cut and sold them. But that is the way I like to run my garden, and it just brings me a lot of joy to be able to enjoy the flowers for a small period of time and then to sell them to someone else who can enjoy them in their home, in their kitchen, on their dining room table, what have you. So for now, I want to wish you all a wonderful day. Grace is dying to come out here, so I'll see you sometime soon. Bye. Good morning, friends. It's early Saturday morning, about 7 a.m., and I'm harvesting for the flower stand. It rained last night, so I wasn't able to harvest last night and make the bouquets in the morning like I normally do. So we'll be a little late setting up the flower stand today. But what I thought I would do is, instead of just cutting the flowers and arranging them with you, I'll go ahead and answer some commonly asked questions about cut flowers, post-harvest care, disease and pest issues you might have, maybe processing products that you've heard about and you want to just know my experience with them. And also, I do get a lot of questions about the flower stand itself, how I started, how I come up with pricing, things like that. So I asked on YouTube if you have any questions, I'll be answering those. So let's just get our day started and hopefully we'll have the stand set up by at least 9 o'clock. So when it comes to zinnias, I seem to see two questions pretty often. That is, first of all, that the zinnia might be melting down in the vase for you after about 1 to 2 days. And the other thing is that they're mucking up the water. So zinnia meltdown is a thing that I have unfortunately experienced multiple years in a row. At first, I didn't know what was happening. And then I started to do some research about it, and I've been following the newer research that has been going on. So zinnia meltdown apparently was caused by Fusarium commune. I'm not sure if I'm saying that type of Fusarium correctly, but C-O-M-M-U-N-E. And basically it causes a zinnia that looks perfectly fine out in the garden or the field to basically melt down at the neck within about 1 to 2 days time. Now, as far as I know, this is relatively new information and they're still doing studies on what we can do out in the garden and in the field to prevent this Fusarium taking hold. But there are some people saying that the best way to deal with it is post-harvest. So to put a CVBN tablet into your bucket. So here in my bucket here, we have a CVBN tablet. That's just basically a bleach tablet. It's sold by Chrysler, although you can probably buy it other places. You can't actually buy it from Chrysler. You have to buy it from somebody else like Johnny's or the Gardener's Workshop, but I think Johnny's is the best price. But basically put that into your harvest bucket and that should help somewhat. So what I'm doing here is a few things, because the hardest part is you don't know you have it until 2 days later. Maybe you've sold the flowers by now, excuse me, maybe you've sold the flowers by now and they're melting down in your customer's house, and that customer, at least in my mind, is probably not going to come back. So all I can do is really keep the area as clean as possible, rotate the zinnias. Also, it seems that some zinnias are more susceptible to others. If you look at the studies chart, Binary Giant is actually at the worst in terms of Fusarium commune. So that's why I told you I was liquidating my entire stock of that seed this year. I'm also doing lots more straw flower, not as many zinnias. Sorry, I had to stop there, put my hair down for a second. I think the other thing that can be hard about zinnia meltdown is that if you pick a zinnia too early, it may do what appears to be the same thing. So if we pick a zinnia before it's ripe and where it's wobbling, oh my goodness, see, look, all around like that, this one's not ready. So as you could see, and this one too is too immature to cut, and it would kind of do that same thing after you harvest it. It would appear to melt down, but zinnia meltdown is different than an immature bloom that's cut and melting down because it was cut too soon in its life cycle. Some other things that you might be dealing with on your zinnias, and I see I'm starting to deal with that now, is powdery mildew caused by high humidity and moisture sitting on the leaves. So this is probably the last cut that I will do on these zinnias before I go ahead and trash them. And for all of these reasons and more, the zinnia meltdown, tarnished plant bug, the problem with zinnias mucking up the water, powdery mildew, and also how my community sees this flower as a very inexpensive and commonly grown flower, I am deciding to move away from zinnias as much as possible and instead replace them with straw flower. In my area, which is southern Pennsylvania, that's a zone 6B where the weather is wet all the time. You can probably see everything is wet around me. It rains all the time, incredibly high humidity. this is a plant, straw flower is a plant that I can rely on and that really has never given me any problems. No pest problems, no disease problems, no powdery mildew, no problems in the vase. Someone asked if there's anything they can do for dahlias that have melted down. I'm not sure if this person left the dahlias outside. Maybe they weren't touching the water in the bucket. I've definitely done that before, where you stick them in the bucket and the stems just aren't long enough and they don't get properly hydrated. So just recently, and I want to give full credit to Julio over at the Flower Hat for teaching me this. He has a method for rehydrating wilted dahlias, and I went ahead and did that the other day and filmed it for you. So basically what you do is you take your wilted dahlias inside, you submerge them in cold water for 10 minutes, then you recut the stem, place them in a vase of cool, clean water, and then place them in your refrigerator. Now, I think Julio recommended placing them in the refrigerator overnight. I tried to really track exactly how many hours they needed. I did this with Diva Dahlia, and she needed 12 hours to fully rehydrate, and they were really, really bad. So depending on how bad they are, it might be more like 8 hours. But so far, so good. I have kept those dahlias so I can see what happens to them. It's day 3. They're on my dining room table, and it looks like I still freshly cut them. And I thought maybe this hack is great, but it will decrease the vase life substantially following this treatment. But so far, it's working out great. I just checked and I saw that we have a question that came in about Quick Dip. So I do have an older video on Quick Dip. Quick Dip is a post-harvest product. It basically, the best way I can think to explain it is that if we think of the stem of a flower like a straw, sometimes the stem or our straw, what's Grace doing? Sometimes the straw gets clogged and basically then the flower can't drink water. When you're using Quick Dip and placing the stem into the Quick Dip, that basically opens the stem up again and allows the free flow of water up to the bloom head. So in years past, I would use Quick Dip on anything that melted down in the vase. So mahogany splendor hibiscus, Cerinthe major, Dara, lambada, dahlias even, lilacs, things like that. I was just using Quick Dip on them. However, I do feel that it works, but I also think that boiling water works just as well on all of those things. Because I'm trying to decrease what I'm spending all over the place, no more Quick Dip for me. I just dip the stems into boiling water for about 7 seconds. Make sure the steam isn't like coming up onto the flower heads. That can be harmful. Keep the flower heads to the side, but I feel like in terms of boiling water versus Quick Dip, they work exactly the same, and boiling water is free. I saw a question, and I think the moral of the question was, when am I using a floral cooler? So I do use an old refrigerator. It's just an old, really kind of nasty looking refrigerator. It's in the garage during the spring and sometimes in the fall. I'm really only putting in tulips, peonies, lilies, and sometimes dahlias into that cooler. And that's mainly because on the shoulders of the summer season, in the summer I try to sell every single day consistently, but a small amount, so 4 to 5 bouquets a day, every single day during the summer. And that's really because I want to be constantly cutting and selling. I don't really want to be holding a lot of stuff over in the refrigerator. Also, a lot of these annual flowers have different refrigeration needs. So rather than bother with anything like that, I just hold over things like tulips, peonies, and like I say, dahlias. And that's because on those shoulder seasons, I'm only selling on the weekend because our house is a bus stop. And it's not just a once a day bus stop. We have basically 4 hours where someone is standing directly in front of the stand. The bus stop basically is the stand because the stand kind of goes down there. The sidewalk dips down onto the road. So that's the only time when I'm attempting to hold any flowers over for a period of time, and bulbs are just incredibly forgiving in terms of cold storage. So I just popped inside to check the questions, and I'm really excited. Let me know if this kind of cut flower Q&A is something you would like to do monthly, because this is really why I started YouTube, is because when I started, I felt like I had no one to talk to that was experiencing the same kind of problems out in the garden, out in the field that I was. So I'll answer some flower stand questions now, and then we can move kind of back to disease and pest problems. So there was one question from a subscriber that I think was a recent subscriber, so I'm really thankful that you decided to join our community. And basically she just wanted to know how I got started with the flower stand, how I advertise it, and how I decide how much to charge for a bouquet. And I can give you a little bit of a life update here as well, because how I was advertising the flowers for 8 years has changed, and it's been kind of a difficult change for me. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? This would be how I want to see most of my sunflowers that I'm selling. Unfortunately, I do have one pickup today, and those are bereavement flowers, and the lady really likes sunflowers. So I'm going to pick some pretty much fully open for her, so the bouquet looks really nice right from the first day. But back to the questions. So when we first moved here, I immediately knew that I wanted to sell cut flowers. This property had been a farmette. There wasn't any grass or anything around. There was a lot more fruit trees, and basically the whole yard was dug up, and it was being farmed for the purpose of providing food for this Amish man that had been shunned, and now he was living basically off the property. I don't believe he had a job, so this really was like a full production fruit and vegetable area, and I imagine he preserved a lot of it as well, judging from what we saw in the house when we moved in. All that to say, when we moved in, I saw that the soil was amazing. He had probably been building the soil up for who knows how long. You know, I don't know how long he was here for. And I had always loved gardening. I had grown up around cut flowers with my grandma. And the year that we moved here was, I think Cool Flowers had been out for maybe 1 year, and Florette was yet to release her book. So I had a little bit of guidance, but not much. And that first year, I think I've told you, I just planted tons and tons of zinnias all at the same time. Big mistake. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I knew I wanted to sell cut flowers right from the start. That was really where my heart was. This was the first house that we had ever purchased. The property taxes seemed really high to me, and I just thought, I wonder if I can have the land pay the property taxes. So my goal has been and continues to be to profit $5,000 in cut flower sales to pay the property taxes. That's always my goal. I have no intent of changing that, scaling up, scaling down. I've just been consistent with that goal. And in terms of how I was advertising, from the beginning, I have been using Facebook. Essentially, I'm selling to friends, neighbors, and locals. I imagine some tourists buy my flowers, but a lot of people, especially now that I use Venmo and I can see the person's name come through, a lot of the people purchasing my flowers are people that I know and love. So I used to use Facebook, and every single day that I was open, I would post pictures and video of the flower stand. I would say I'm open, here's what we have today at the stand. And then that was basically my main way of advertising. At the very beginning, I was also posting in local Facebook groups. So just, my local area. I know some people use Nextdoor when they get started out, but these roadside stands are really common around here. So it's normal to kind of shop the street where I live. With all that being said, a few weeks ago, my personal Facebook account, which of course is linked to my business Facebook account, was hacked and then was quickly deleted. And because of the way they went about this hacking, it seems, oh, I lost that one. It seems that I have lost my Facebook account for good, which on a personal level I could care less about. But Northlawn Flower Farm, the page still exists, but I don't have any access to it because my personal account was deleted. So I was a little bit upset about it, but I think it's a good learning lesson that I probably should have been collecting emails this entire time. You know, I should have been collecting emails from customers, collecting emails from Facebook, so that I could send out kind of an email blast every time that I was open. So this wasn't a question, but I thought I would share it in case it's helpful. This is obedient plant when it's green before it blooms, and this will basically last, 3 weeks in the vase. It might even root. I haven't left it in the vase longer than 3 weeks. This is about as open as I personally like to harvest it, because I do have a small black beetle here. I don't know the name of the beetle, I'm sorry, that does like to congregate on these blooms. It doesn't seem to really do a lot of damage to the blooms, but they are kind of a pain to have to wash off, maybe 6 beetles per stem. So the earlier I can pick them, like this, then I don't have to worry about those beetles. But this is a great spike, perennial, for later in the season. So in terms of the buckets, I saw a question about where do I source these buckets from. These buckets I get for free from Aldi's. If you just go in there, make friends with one of the store clerks, tell them what you do, they trash these buckets. So they will happily collect and save them for you and give them to you for free. Some people asked me about, do people take the jars? Yes, they always take the jars. That is my hope, that they take the jars, because I want my flowers to always stay in water. I don't want them to be traveling out of water. Those are recycled sauce jars from a year's worth of being Italian, I guess you could say. We eat a lot of sauce. Also, the dollar store is a great resource. Right now, for today, we're going to be using some dollar store vases that fit in my holders. And my holders are also free. You can get those from the wine store. So they're built to hold wine, but they will hold sauce jars, and the cylindrical vases from the dollar store, they will fit those wine holders, and you can get those for free too. Someone is asking about bringing worms accidentally inside the house from their sunflowers. Now, I'm not sure exactly what stage of harvest you're working with, but I would say try to harvest even sooner than what you're doing. Try to harvest that sunflower. If you're having trouble with worms, try to harvest it when none of the petals have lifted off the sunflower yet. In fact, I think I see one that looks like that, so let me go cut it. So for example, can you cut the sunflower like this? Now, if you're cutting it like this and you're still having issues with worms, and I did have issues with worms on the white sunflowers, and that is why I stopped growing them altogether. But what you also could do is that when they form the head, but before they really color up and swell out at all, you can use, once again, an organza bag. Just put the organza bag over the bloom, tighten it up, and then it will protect the bloom head. Depending on how many sunflowers you're growing, that might not be practical at all. But my main solution for the worms was to just stop growing the varieties that seem to have the most problems. And for me, that was white light and white night. None of the yellow and the orange and the dark colored sunflowers seem to attract those worms. I'm not sure why that is, but I haven't had any worm problems since I stopped growing the white sunflowers. Someone asked a great question about what do you do about your dog and your cats getting into the beds when the seedlings are small. So if you're growing in an area where you can install the floral netting really early in the season, I do find that helps with the cats getting into the beds. Now, I trained Grace from the beginning not to go in the raised beds. She does seem to understand that. She does walk through my landscape beds, to be honest with you. So if I have anything that's really precious that I don't want her to trample, it will come back here and live in a raised bed. But a lot of what's in my borders are bulbs, and they're not blooming until they're much taller, really strong stems, and they can kind of handle her walking through those areas. But definitely with the cats wanting to use the raised beds, and if you have cats, you probably know what they like to use raised beds for. I would say install that floral netting from the start and install it really low, and then just move it up as you need it. At least that works with my cats. Let me know if you guys who also have furry friends have any other tips on that. Someone's asking about a good fall flower that's not a dahlia. So I guess we're kind of seeing very early fall here in my garden. Today is September 10th, no, September 9th. So we're almost at fall. So I would say if you're looking for something other than dahlias, I would just continue to succession plant sunflowers. You can see the succession we were at before is in bloom now. That was from saved seed. But in about 1.5 weeks, by the time we get to, I would say, late to mid-September flower stand, I'll have another succession of sunflowers in bloom over here in a raised bed. And for me, that just really helps me just pump out focal flowers, and flowers with sunflowers in them just sell so well. Another plant that blooms in the fall that I just love is this. It's called Jewels of Opar. When it blooms, it's a beautiful dainty pink bloom. Those blooms quickly fade, turn into these really cool seed pods. The foliage is also really beautiful. It's a lime green. But this is nice if you like frosted explosion grass, but you're just looking for something a little bit different. You might want to try growing this one here instead and see what you like better. Some people have asked me about the pathways that run kind of in and around my flower borders, making it easier for me to cut the flowers. So I can walk on one of those now for you. So these stepping stones, I probably got these from Lowe's for about $1. And they go all the way back to the obedient plant. I've just laid them right on top of the soil surface because you really don't see them late in the season. I even cut back some of the peony foliage for you just so you could see it a little bit better. I'll cut some of this dogwood back too. But here's the path right here. Here's another great question from someone. Oh, here's my husband. He's picking some apples and peppers. Best foliage that's not a shrub, not an annual, that's a perennial. Hands down, this doesn't look good at this point in the season, but Solomon seal. Solomon seal does best in the shade. I think it is the most elegant perennial foliage that there is. It lasts forever in the vase. You will often see a plant called leather leaf used at the grocery store or by a florist that it lasts forever, just like Solomon seal, but Solomon seal is so much more elegant. I grow the variegated variety. I like that even better. It starts blooming right along with the peonies. It still looks okay now. I'm starting to prune back that burning bush that I told you guys I want to get rid of, and so I let in a little bit too much light. So that's why my Solomon seal isn't looking great at this point in the season. But this is definitely my #1 pick. Also, now reflushing and not at the appropriate time for cutting. Too wimpy and weak at the moment. But this is Baptisia, or how do some other people say it? I don't know, I've always said Baptisia. This is such a wonderful perennial foliage. It looks very similar to eucalyptus, super easy to grow, develops into ginormous plants. You can use the flowers, you can use the seed pods. I just use it for the foliage. And at this point in the season, I basically cut it really heavily. It's cut all the way back down to the ground. It will reflush like this and give me these short stems before the first frost, but they are generally a little bit too weak to use. Although I could probably sear the end or stick it into boiling water and get this top to stop being floppy, or just pick it off too. Someone asked about, do I have ants on my sunflowers? Do I know why that might be happening? And they mentioned that they hadn't really heard people talking about this. That's a really interesting question. I'm really interested to hear what everyone thinks about this. I think I have seen that, but it hasn't become such a problem that I've made any adjustments to growing them, such as I have with, cutting that obedient plant really early because of the beetle, or not growing the white sunflowers anymore because of that worm. So let me know what you think about the ants. Maybe it's a sugar thing. There's some kind of sugar up there they like, some kind of scent they're after. Maybe they're eating some other minor bug in the food chain. I'm not really sure. Let me know what you guys think. Someone was asking what hardy annuals I'm growing this year and when I direct sow them in my zone. So I direct sow hardy annuals or cool flowers approximately 6 weeks before the first frost. Our average first frost is basically Halloween. It says it's a little bit earlier when you look it up online, but I usually go by Halloween. So it's usually mid-September that I'm going and direct sowing those flowers. I'm going to be doing Bupleurum, Larkspur, Nigella, Orlea, Dara, and that might be it. That might actually be it. I'm going even heavier on the bulbs this year. I'm going to do some overplanting of daffodils and see how that works. I want to do 2 of the raised beds. The back 2 raised beds get a little bit less sun than all the other ones. So I'm going to permanently plant cut daffodils in those beds, and then I'm going to overplant them in very early spring, 6 weeks before the last frost, with more cool flowers. So that's why I'm doing, I wouldn't say any less cool flowers this year, but I'm limiting it to ones that I know overwinter really, really well here and are really reliable. Someone asked a really interesting question. It really made me think and evaluate how I designed the main flower walk, and if I could do it again, I would do a lot of things differently. So while I took into consideration the mature size of all of the plants and the trees, and I gave them enough room to grow, I really didn't consider, and I don't know why I did this, but I didn't consider the fact that I was creating a shade garden over time in that area. I thought because I was putting these plants along the perimeter that it wouldn't block out the sun. But with the way and the angle that the sun moves over the house and over the garage and is kind of behind the main flower walk for the portion of the day when it's really hot, even things like the Japanese cedar and that big burning bush and just a whole bunch of other things are actually blocking the area from being full sun. And it's being a problem, not only because of sun, but also because you know how we get all this rain here, and you know I have a drainage problem over there. Well, now that it's, you know, more shady and less sunny, it's taking even longer for things to dry out. So I don't know, I can't cut all of these really big things down, but does the main flower walk, in terms of the annuals and perennials that I grow there for cut flowers, does that need to change and evolve? I think it does. I think I probably have about 1 more growing season where everything will be all right. And then after that, I might have to grow a lot more shade plants over in that area. Another question that's often asked is, how do I decide which plants to put in the landscape and which to put over in the raised bed? That is definitely a trial and error situation. If a plant is in desperate need of support during its life cycle, so if I need to put floral netting on it, it's definitely going in a raised bed. If it's prone to disease caused by overcrowding, such as the zinnias, it's definitely going in a raised bed. It's going to go in a raised bed if it's a one and done flower. That is an annual. Perennials are okay like that. Annuals, not okay. I don't want that much empty space and that much flipping in my border. Now, what I do want in my flower borders is perennials that are good cut flowers. There's an excellent new book out on that. Here it is, the Cut Flower Source Book. This is all about perennial cut flowers. I highly recommend that book. Totally worth the money. But what I want in my borders is perennials that are good for cutting, shrubs that look good after I cut them, that have multi-seasons of cutting value. I want to think about, after I cut the flower that's in the landscape, am I still left with something nice to look at? If I put a single stem sunflower in the landscape and then cut it, it doesn't look good there anymore. If I put saponaria in the landscape and it comes to maturity within 60 days and I cut it, then I have a big hole there which I need to fill. But if I put strawflower, gomphrena, celosia in my borders, they are not going to look bad after I cut them. Multi-stemmed celosia, that is. They're not going to look bad after I cut them. The plants are still going to look nice and healthy. They're not prone to disease in my area. And I don't have to cut the whole plant at once. I can cut selectively from those plants and still leave behind something beautiful to look at in my border. We cut the jewels of opar. Now we cut the flower, but we left behind that amazing lime green foliage. So I think it's really thinking about, first of all, does that plant need a lot of support? Then I don't want it in the landscape. Is it going to look good after I cut it? Is that area going to need flipped too often if I plant that annual there? And then of course, always just taking into consideration right plant, right place. Well, friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning as we cut flowers and talked about what is probably all of our favorite thing, cut flowers, I'm guessing, if you're here. For now, I want to get cleaned up at least a little bit before my friend gets here. I want to wish you all a wonderful day. Let me know if you'd like to do this again sometime, and I hope to see you sometime soon. We've got a really special tour coming up. I'll see you for that. Bye. Good morning, friends. How's everyone doing today? Well, we are in the midst of a crazy long heat wave here in Pennsylvania without any rain. So I haven't been setting up the flower stand for the last week and a half. Now today's going to be 95 degrees, but what I want to do is cut as many flowers as I can this morning because tonight we're having a big thunderstorm, and then hopefully we'll be able to set up the flower stand the following day. It looks like the heat is going to break tonight. I'm also working on a custom arrangement tonight, and since we're going to be getting a big storm, I'll probably be picking some flowers for our house also. So without further ado, let's get to work and try to beat the heat. So this is the bed where we interplanted straw flowers and gladiolas, which was okay, but in retrospect, now that I see how they grow together, next year what I'll do is probably cool season, cool flower transplants and gladiolas, and I'll pick a cool flower that has more of a lacy basal foliage, something like maybe Dara, Nigella, Ami. I just think that it's getting a little bit crowded, and I'm afraid that not enough light is getting to the gladiolas, but we'll see. So it's hard to tell for sure how this is going to work out because now that we're cutting them, the gladiolas will have more sun. But in retrospect, seeing how they're growing together, I think that this drought flower might be shading them too much. But I'll keep updating you on that. And once these gladiolas start to bloom, we'll definitely take another look at this bed, and then we'll be able to make a proper assessment. This is our interplanting of saponaria and lilies, and this worked so well last year that I repeated it again this season. I planted these on the same exact day, so the bulbs and the seeds went in direct into the ground on the same exact day. They bloom at the same time, and so you can basically harvest this entire area within a matter of 2 weeks and then have it cleared for something else. So it's something I feel like I'll always repeat in the future. I also went ahead and seeded saponaria around my dahlias that are in the raised bed, just to once again try to get another cut around these flowers that take a little bit longer. And now we can cut them, sell them, and our dahlias will have more room to grow. All right, so let's start out this arrangement with a nice strong focal flower. Following that, I want to add a beautiful stem of foliage. And the other great thing about using lemon balm is that it smells amazing. I've even had lemon balm root in the vase. And I do prefer this over basil. It doesn't melt down at the flower stand like basil can, but you still get that great fragrance. Next, let's add in a little bit of Dahlia this time, which is over there in the driveway garden. Then we'll come in with the seashell mix straw flower. Add in a little bit of saponaria. And then let's go ahead and put in some Orlea grandiflora. And then we need a nice big disc flower that could almost double as a focal flower. So I'm going to be using this Neo Rose Dianthus that we grew together from seed. Add that in. Isn't that beautiful? That adds so much to the bouquet. And now I'm just going to repeat all these ingredients until I am happy with how the design looks. So here's what the bouquet is looking like without a central focal flower. And since I do sell at a roadside stand, I always like to put one really big, valuable open flower right in front. We'll go ahead, stick this into a soft jar, just like I always do, and then we'll also wrap them, because I have found that wrapping makes a big difference in terms of how well these bouquets sell. Up, and I think it looks so beautiful and eye-catching with those royal sunset lilies. Now I need to head out again and do a couple custom order deliveries. I think I'll bring Grace with me. We'll grab a treat on the way home. This is the first bouquet that we'll be delivering. You can see I'm using those royal sunset lilies again, but since this is a more expensive design and it never has to be outside, I was able to use the Baptisia foliage. Also, I put in some calla lilies, a little bit of Dahlia and straw flower, but I like to keep these custom arrangements that are more expensive a little more simple, a little more elegant, and I don't use anything like the feverfew or the saponaria in them. I just feel like this looks a little bit cleaner and a little bit more expensive. And I thought, I think we might be able to stop over at my old neighbor's garden while we're out. So let's head out and I'll ring her doorbell and see if she'll give us a really quick tour of her rose garden. So we used to live in an old hardware store that had been divided into 4 different apartments, and we lived there for about 9 years before moving to our current home. So it was a very humble apartment, but across the road from us was this huge historic mansion with beautiful gardens. They had this amazing rose garden in the front, and then they have this secret rose garden in the back. This garden is also on a main road, so you can see she has that wonderful, really tall evergreen hedge. And this is a quadrant garden. You can see a car there behind the hedge. And so she mainly just grows Annabelle hydrangeas, begonias, roses, boxwoods, and then she had some euonymus that I saw also. But it's such a beautiful garden. It has really nice, clean lines. Kind of gives me a 1950s feel, like we're back in an old Doris Day movie, which I always love. And it's just such a beautiful and peaceful space. And I'm really glad she gave us a quick look around while I dropped off another pair of flowers. Well, friends, we're back home now and the heat is coming on strong. One of you recommended that I put some ice packs right next to the flowers once it gets really hot, and I really appreciate that comment. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that right now. But for now, I want to wish you all a wonderful day out there in your gardens. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and Grace today, and we'll see you sometime soon. Bye. Hi friends, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, tonight we're going to be taking a look at how the flower stand does overnight. School is back in session and our house, specifically where my flower stand is located, is a bus stop. So I've stopped selling daily bouquets and I've been selling only on the weekends and holidays. But something happened last weekend by accident that worked out really well. So I'm trying it again this weekend. So I had purchased some push lights on Amazon for the flower stand. I think I only paid about $10 for them, and I just stuck them inside to try to light up the back bouquets. Well, those lights stayed on last Saturday night. When I went to bed, there was 4 bouquets in the stand. When I woke up, there was only 1 bouquet in the stand. So tonight I want to try that again, because then instead of trying to sell 4 to 5 bouquets a day, maybe I can try to sell 8 to 10 over the course of the whole day, 4 in the morning and 4 overnight. So let's give it a try again and see what happens. So I noticed some questions on the last garden tour and on some previous flower stand setups asking how the theft issue is going this year. And friends, I can't tell you how thankful I am. No one has stolen a single bouquet this year, and that's the first time that has ever happened in 8 years of selling cut flowers. I have always had bouquets stolen. It's always just been part of the deal here. And I'm not really sure why no one's stolen the flowers this year. Now, I got a new flower stand. I'm accepting Venmo, and I did raise my prices. Just like always, all the bouquets are the same price, so they're all $20 no matter what. But I'm not sure what it is. But I'm just so thankful that for the first time ever, we're selling everything and no one is stealing the flowers or the flower stand itself. You might remember, I'm not even sure if I told you guys this, but someone actually stole one of my stands in a previous growing season. And since we haven't been having any theft, I've really been thinking about staying open every single weekend all the way until Christmas. My plan is to go ahead and do that. We're starting to put some apples out at the stand. Pretty soon here, I'm going to be selling pumpkins as well. Big buckets of dried hydrangeas, almost like a floral bouquet or a bouquet bar. I did that once one year. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't work at all. But I think I'll give it a try again because the hydrangeas are looking so good this year, and not a lot of them have been damaged by rain turning the blooms brown. Oh my goodness, look at this. Can you see that butterfly up on the birdhouse? So I think for now what we'll do is we'll head inside and get started on making some homemade apple butter. About a week ago, we harvested lots of apples over here from the orchard, and I want to go ahead and make some apple butter tonight in the crock pot, so tomorrow morning we can enjoy some with breakfast. And once the sun goes down, I will show you what the flower stand looks like all lit up. I love these crock pot recipes that use up a lot of produce, because then you can just stick it all in, forget it in the evening, and then just blend it up. So we just need a few spices. We need some cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg. Grace, what are you doing now?
What is going on in... Oh, what did you do, Grace? Oh dear. Crazy, you better clean this up before Daddy gets home. You better clean this up.
So we just need to core, peel, and chop about 24 apples. I think the recipe says 6.5 pounds. I've got my crock pot on low, and I'm just gonna add in a cup of brown sugar. You can see Grace's contribution to the cooking. She bit this handle off when she was a puppy. And then 1 cup of white sugar too. 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'll just push those spices around a bit. They'll cook down in no time at all. Put my lid on. Oh, looks like I need to wash my lid. But I'll just cook this on low for 10 hours. And then it says to use an immersion blender to blend it, but I don't own that, so I just use a regular blender. And here's the garden view from the kitchen window. Grace is still scratching herself or tearing up a box in there. Can you hear her? Gracie, sounds like you're tap dancing. You tap dancing? So we have two push lights inside the stand that are just held onto the stand with the tape that came with the push lights. I think I paid maybe $12 for two on Amazon. So we have the sunflowers, zinnias, still some feverfew, and lots of celosia at the flower stand tonight. It isn't quite as dark as it looks in the camera right now. And once it gets a little bit darker, we also have some solar lighting pointing at the stand. And it appears that Buddy is manning the flower stand this evening. So here's what it looks like after about 10 hours. I also decided to go ahead and make a homemade loaf of bread. So let's stick the bread in the oven. We'll get this all blended up and then we'll see how it tastes. Hey friends, good morning. Today we need to get right to work harvesting flowers because we're expecting a big tropical storm this weekend. I'm going to get all of my sunflowers harvested, my celosia, straw flower, anything that might get ruined during the storm. I want to go ahead and get it harvested ASAP. So let's grab a bucket and get straight to work. I'm pretty sure my hair looks absolutely crazy today, so sorry about that. I had no idea about this storm, or else I would have prepared better for it. Oh man, are these beautiful. So I had sold some of these from the other succession a few days ago, and that day there was one bouquet left, so I kept it for myself. And these sunflowers lasted a week in the vase, and then I just kind of got tired of the arrangement, so I threw it in the compost pile. And wouldn't you know, 3 days later that sunflower still looked good in the compost pile. So I was really impressed with the vase life of these, and I didn't really know what to expect. Found another winner. Look at that one. You know, I'm really happy with the size on these. I wasn't sure at first, but once I started to cut them, I think at 6 inches, I'm really happy with these. I'm gonna leave all the singles for the bees. I'm not sure what the vase life will be on the singles. I haven't tested those. Look at that one. So I think I have a confession to make. A part of me is really hoping that we sell out in 5 hours, but a part of me is okay with this storm because if these don't sell, that just means I get to keep them. I mean, aren't these gorgeous? How could you not want to buy these? But you know, selling flowers that are dark is always a bit of a challenge at the stand. So we'll just see how it goes. What do you think, Grace? Gomfrina next? Good call. I think this sedum is going to save the day and take up a lot of space in the bouquets. Well, hopefully this will be good. I think we have enough for 4 nice bouquets. We have plenty of sunflowers for probably 6 or 7, but I'm gonna run really quickly to the front, grab a whole bunch of forsythia, and then quickly put these together, wrap them, and get the stand set up. Well, I threw these together really quickly and I managed to completely wreck the addition in the process. I'll have to clean up as soon as I come back inside. I think they look really beautiful. I tried to put 3 open sunflowers in the front, and then all the other sunflowers will open up in the vase for the customer. I also picked some hydrangea from over in the driveway garden, and I normally would wrap some of these, but since we're on kind of a time crunch, I think let's just go ahead and get them out to the flower stand because we only have about 3 hours until sundown. All right, friends, we are officially open for business, and I can feel this storm in the air. It's really windy now, but I just love the way these bouquets turned out. And normally I would put all 5 bouquets on the top shelf, but because of how windy it is, I have 1 on the bottom today too. Meanwhile, inside I have a delicious disaster going on. Grace is eating her dinner in the background, but I'm making some homemade apple cider with some of these apples that we picked from the tree over in the hydrangea room the other day. Well, friends, it's 2 days later now, and it's been pretty crazy here. Mainly the wind has been really bad. You might be able to see far behind me, a lot of my amaranth has fallen over. My pots on the porch have fallen over, but I don't think I've lost anything that's a complete loss. I think everything is salvageable, and this is just a current break in the storm. We still have 2 more days of rain. So I didn't sell any bouquets Friday, and then Saturday I kept trying to open up the flower stand in between these rain and wind sessions we were having. And the moral of the story is I sold 0 bouquets this weekend. But I don't want all these bouquets to go to waste, so I think I'm going to try to make the best of this situation and take some of these flowers and turn them into a pumpkin floral arrangement. So let's go ahead inside and start on that now. Even though the flower stand didn't really go according to plan, at least we still got to make something beautiful for our home. And I think moving forward this week, we'll probably be cleaning up the garden, cleaning up what fell down in the garden, that is. But I have some really exciting videos coming up for you. A tour of an author's cutting garden. A dear friend of mine is going to give us a tour, somewhat of an introduction and a tour to his cut flower garden and how he sells flowers at a roadside stand also. We'll have the September garden tour to look forward to. And of course, I need to throw some amaryllis videos out because 'tis the season, the most wonderful time of the year. And naturally, I bought way more amaryllis than I could ever need. So I want to wish you a wonderful day out there in your gardens, and I'll see you sometime soon. Bye.